My whole working career has really been around investments, financial planning. I just encourage them to take the leap. It's really now or never. And the whole premise is rather than accumulating lots and lots of wealth and then being at the stage of life where you're too old and not in the best health to spend it down, it's really kind of refocusing. And rather than solve for financial goals, it's solving for life fulfillment.
Enjoy it now, work your butt off now, and then have this fruitful retirement.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your Franchise Guide, the show where we help corporate executives experience time and financial freedom via franchising. Thanks for joining us today. Very exciting episode. I have a good friend of mine, Brady Boyd, on the show. Brady's going to talk about his experience working together, the brand that he ended up investing in, and how business is going. So, Brady, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited. I know we've been looking to set this up. I wanted to grab a time that worked for you. So, wanted to dive right in. So, tell the audience a little bit of background of kind of who Brady is and why you got into or wanted to look into franchising.
Yeah. So, I grew up in Oklahoma, moved to San Diego for college, and didn't want to go back to Oklahoma. So I did everything I could to stay in San Diego. And my whole working career has really been around financial planning. So investments, financial planning, it's kind of been my day job before franchising is investment advisor.
And, we started working a while back, and you had an interest in franchising. So tell us a little bit about, what caused that interest, since you already had owned a business.
I think I've always been naturally just inclined to different investments. I guess in the investment world, we call them alternatives, and
yes,
and looking at other opportunities. And franchising has always interested me. And it's one of those COVID things. Things slowed down, started looking around a little bit more, and we got connected, talking about franchising, and went down that rabbit hole. Fortunately ended up finding something I loved.
Awesome. Yeah, you had mentioned alternative investments, and that's a buzzword. Like, what the heck does that even mean? And I've got that question. I also come, as you know, from the investment world, and I always say they're non-traditional, kind of investments. There's so many investments. There's so many vehicles that we can look at. And I'm the big believer of the Warren Buffett approach, and that's basically investing in things you understand, and maybe we don't and are comfortable with, right? So not to say you can't learn something new, which I'm always learning every single day, but keeping it simple that you don't have to invest in every single alternative investment out there. There's commodities, and there's real estate syndication, and private startups, franchises. There's so many vehicles. So a lot of people look at franchising for that proven system, that proven model. So taking a step back, if you could tell the viewers just maybe some experience of working together, and then I want to jump into the brand you ended up moving forward with.
Yeah, so I think I met you around 2020, 2021, and I move slow. I'm very methodical. I kind of paralysis analysis. I look at everything, and I move very slow. So as soon as I looked at franchising, I'm a very skeptic. So I'm always kind of, what is he trying to sell me? what am I being sold? And it was really fascinating to hear. I didn't realize how many companies are actually franchises. Of course, the McDonald's and the fast foods of the world, but it almost seems like more times than not, it's a franchise, and very, very successful companies. So just kind of my investment, background, always, kind of wondering, well, what do their numbers look like, and how does this look? And so after talking to you, I was able to dig a little deeper in some of these brands, which have been really, really exciting. And speaking of alternatives, I think alternatives gets thrown around a lot, and I think it's kind of a catch-all for everything else. You've got the stocks and bonds, and then being very, very generalizing, everything else gets kind of tossed into that alternative bucket. And you're right. I think, the flashier an investment can be, or the flashier, the more an investment advisor or financial planner has to talk about something and use complex terminology, usually the more you're being sold something.
So is crypto, is any of the cryptos considered an alternative investment, or is that a currency? I mean, it's, I'm not as familiar with it. I don't invest in crypto. I'm not against it. But would that be considered an alternative? Because that comes up.
Yeah, I would absolutely consider it as an alternative. I mean, you look at a generalized portfolio of, stocks, bonds, you get their real estate in there, alternatives. I would absolutely put crypto in there. But of course, the crypto guy might view crypto as its own bucket. So
gotcha. Yes, many buckets, and I definitely want to have another conversation around this. But I find that intriguing with our similar backgrounds, because it is it gets to be kind of, I think people just get overwhelmed. And I always say, with stocks, with bonds, you hire a financial advisor. There's not much of a time commitment, right? You're not running, Berkshire Hathaway. You're not running. We talked about Warren Buffett. You're not running these companies. Crypto, yes, you're monitoring, but how much are you monitoring during the day? That's why you rely on a financial advisor. I know I do. And then it's like, okay, but the returns you have to look at and monitor. Okay, what's my returns? What's my risk? What's my time commitment? And these are all things you look at with a franchise. Obviously, a franchise, you're going to have much greater, time commitment to the business, because you're running the day to day that you will not have with, some of these other alternatives like crypto and stocks, bonds. So actually not traditional investments, I should say. So these are things that I'm working on a big project, a series, in regards to that. So we'll talk more then, but we may have you back on the show, putting on your financial advisor hats. I think that's the missing piece here, is maybe to clarify the various options and then have people almost kind of say, okay, this is where I fall, and maybe these are the three options I should look at. So that would be super helpful. All right, cool. So, we had worked together, sounded like experience, and it went well. And by the way, to your comment about moving slow, there's no such thing. You move at the pace you're comfortable with. If you don't have the information, or you need to speak with some more candidates, I always said, then let's do it. Let's not rush into anything. And I'm a firm believer, considering how large the investment is. But with Kiddo-Kinetics, so talk to us, why Kiddo? What is Kiddo-Kinetics, and how are things going?
Yeah, Kiddo-Kinetics is just a natural fit for me. So Kiddo-Kinetics introduces sports to kids. So I've kind of two main flavors. One is outsourced PE. So think of, back it up, it's geared for 2 to 10-year-olds. So think of a smaller preschool or school that's not going to have the budget to hire a PE teacher. They'll bring Kiddo-Kinetics in to run their PE program.
Right. And
so that's, schools pay for that. And then the other flavor that we've had a lot more success with, or a lot more demand, I should say, is parent-paid enrichment classes. So after school enrichment classes, school gets out at noon. Parents are looking for another hour because they're busy working, and they want their kids to go to dance, gymnastics, some kind of program. We come to the schools. So we'll go to the schools. The enrichments happen on campus, and so the kids just stay at school another hour, and we get to do introduction to sports. So different sport each week. And for me, it's just a natural fit. I've got a 3 and 6-year-old daughter, 3 and 6-year-old daughters, and grew up playing sports, ran track in college. And I think sports just impacts people in so many different ways, some positive, some negative. Mm-hmm. But what we do, it's non-competitive, it's introduction. It's kind of before kids get to that competitive, cutthroat sports portion of their lives. It's just making it fun, making exercise fun and enjoyable.
Awesome. And getting it, what did we say? I think when we were working together, I think they were saying, cut the screen time, right? Get kids off their screens, which I know is a problem for a lot of kids nowadays, right? Growing up, we didn't even have, for myself, I remember having internet going into college. I didn't even have the internet, let alone a mobile phone. So, and I jokingly said, I think we need a program for adults, because I catch myself on my screen. So maybe we need a program for adults, and that's you could steal that idea. Maybe it'll be an add-on, but that is interesting. So how are things going? You know, what's been your experience? What does your team look like? You know, you have a lot of employees. You know, what does that look like?
Yeah, so about a year in, and we've got one director, 8 coaches, and an intern that just started this last week.
Oh wow!
So yeah, the team's been growing, exponentially. It's been a lot of fun. Back to my, investment advisor hat. I've got a business partner and no employees, so it was kind of daunting to hire one employee. Now I've got 9 paid employees and an intern, so that was definitely scary, but just a rock star team. The director has done a phenomenal job. Remember Dave Paskin, the CEO of Ketokinetics, encouraged me. He said, how good a delegator are you?
Right.
I said, I can be pretty good. And he said, well, if you're a good delegator, you'll do well. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but now I know exactly what it means. A lot of people can get so caught up in the details and kind of wanting to be in control. And I hated that as an investment advisor, financial advisor, working at other firms,
right.
having managers that kind of monitoring every email and how many calls did you make. And so I didn't want to be that kind of boss. So my director kind of gave him free reign, and he's just done an incredible job. So I feel like I've done a good job delegating, and he's built out an incredible team.
That's awesome. And that's part of business ownership, right? The owner can't do everything. Ultimately the goal is to work on and not in the business every minute of the day, approving every single aspect and every decision. So, that's a big part with a lot of businesses. It's finding the right team, because as an employee, you don't want to be micromanaged. So it's like, let's find the right team. I always say, start off investing the time, not hiring the first person you meet, making sure they're a good fit, setting the expectation. And then, part of a franchise, having systems in place so you're not the business. You at some point, you'll have a much larger team and maybe not as involved, or that's the beauty of business ownership. Maybe you want to be involved more, but you have the option to do so. And that's, I think, the true, the true piece, the true freedom piece. It's not just everyone wants financial freedom, but what about time freedom? And time freedom is choosing what you want to do when you want to do it. So if you want to put the hours, you want to take time off. I know from working with you, you've traveled all over, and just having the ability to travel and maybe manage remotely at some point, which is always going to be an option with the right team and the franchisor obviously supporting you. So, what advice? So the audience are corporate, for the most part, are corporate executives. Corporate executives, they're tired of their job. We were just talking about, not to name any names, but companies with massive layoffs, and people are starting to question, do I want to, work for another corporation? Do I just want to go out on my own? I'm working so many hours, might as well invest, those hours back into myself and into my own business. You're now, owning 2 different businesses and juggling them at the same time. What advice do you have for those people that are kind of stuck and not knowing kind of where to even start?
Yeah, I just encourage them to take the leap. To take the leap. And I mean, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. It's easy to say, hard to do. But it's really now or never. Thinking about, part of Ketokinetics, just the whole health component, trying to lead healthier lives. And yeah, I'm, talk about screen time. I'm very guilty of pushing the Netflix Disney button, and I joke around my wife that this was a very expensive MBA to get into. So,
right.
But yeah, it's I would just encourage them, if they have a small inkling of desire to move forward, just to explore it a little bit more, because going back to that health thing, you never know. Financial advisor, I'd always look at investing in the future, down the road in retirement, enjoy life in retirement, work now. And it's part of the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, which I think that a lot of those tenets are fantastic. But what they miss is the today, enjoying the today. And starting a franchise is definitely not hitting the easy button. It's definitely not investing in that set it and forget it portfolio. It's definitely a little bit of startup work, but I've already seen just within a year the dividends that it pays off. You mentioned traveling. We were able to get it away to Italy a couple months ago with the kids. And that was one of my biggest fears is, am I going to be able to travel? Am I going to be able to step away? And fortunately, have a great team that's kind of there and able to do that.
How long were you gone for?
10 days. It was daughter's spring break, and went to Cinque Terre where I proposed.
Nice.
Celebrated a 10-year anniversary, the spot where I proposed, and Florence and Montepulciano, had some good wine and
That's awesome.
had a great time.
That's awesome. So it can be done, right? Being that time freedom, the ability to travel. I always tell people, to your point, it's not franchising. There's no magic button. There's systems in place that you need to follow, but there's execution and hiring the right team and not rushing through that process. But maybe not the first month in business ownership, but you get past 6 months to a year. Everyone knows kind of, you learn the business, you got the right team. Everyone has that kind of their expectations. So they know, who needs to step up, especially the owner, is traveling or not available. So that's a big part of this. Anything else that we missed? I mean, I know we could definitely talk for hours, and I wanted to be respectful of your time, but anything else, advice wise? And by the way, great point. Enjoy it now, because I was guilty of it. Work your butt off now and then have this fruitful retirement. Well, what you see people doing is they're not having a good lifestyle, retiring at 65, 70, and then they're not able to enjoy retirement. They may financially be there, but maybe health wise, or they've just had such a stressful situation that they just can't enjoy it. So I think that's a very good, there's a book someone recommended called 4,000 Weeks. And it talks about the average lifespan and how many weeks we have, weekends. And when you really break it down, how many days we have left on this world, enjoy it, because time isn't infinite. We all have maybe lifespan will vary a little bit, but enjoy it now. It's not the enjoyment. It's not the destination. It's the journey. That's what I was trying to get at. Had a little brain fog there, but anything else you like to contribute? It doesn't have to be franchise related, just even in business, things people should consider maybe.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that book. Another book that I just listened to was Die with Zero. And Bill
What was it called? I'm sorry.
Die with Zero.
Die with Zero.
And the whole premise is, rather than accumulating lots and lots of wealth and then, being at the stage of life where you're too old and not in the best health to spend it down, it's really kind of refocusing and rather than solve for financial goals, it's solving for life fulfillment. So right. to live a fulfilling life, it's sometimes spending money now, which is kind of funny for me to say, because it's always been that saving mentality, save. So it's just another way to look at it. Yeah, I mean, not now or never, really. I mean, it's do you want to be in control? Do you want to be in control? And when I say in control, obviously, how much control do you want to be in, whether it's an investment or a business? Do you want to have that set it and forget it portfolio? Do you want to run things on your own terms? Or do you really want to be a slave to a boss for the next 10 to 15 years? That's
very, very well said. And by the way, just to be very clear, you can have multiple, right? You can have your businesses and a stock portfolio. I just want to be very clear that it's, someone said, well, it's one or the other. I said, no, I make a majority of my money with the franchises we had. My wife works; she's not part of the business, but you're able to reinvest. I have a stock portfolio as well. Her retirement she maxes her 401k out, so you can have multiple streams of income and multiple investments. So, Brady, I appreciate it. This has been great. It's a good excuse to also just to catch up with these shows. I know owning a business the first year can get pretty busy, so. I just wanted to thank you again. I really appreciate the time, and maybe we'll have you back on when we were going to do an alternative investment. Maybe you could probably break it down much better than I can. So may re-invite you back on the show if you wouldn't mind, and we'll talk investments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, at the end of the day, franchising is part of a diversified portfolio, to your point. And yeah, I really appreciate all that you've done for me, and it's been a fun ride, and I can't thank you enough for that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, and I want updates at bare minimum. I want to know how things are going. And actually, I think you had just shared with me, and before we tie up, you actually just extended the territory that you're part of with Kiddo Kinetics a couple months back, I believe. So things sounds like things are going really well. But yeah, keep us posted. We'll have you back on, and want to hear how the journey is going. So till then, we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.